with the millions.
It's that world heavyweight flow. Championship belt wrapped around my waist, yo. I got that Ric Flair figure flow. Slam you on the pavement, that's why they call me Street Pro. Create heat on beat flow. Like Jordan after the second time he three-peated, folks. Get ready, set, let's go. Fight toe to toe, release the flow created by this mic pro. Lights, cameras, get low. Action packed, back to back. In fact, this monster will grow. Y'all better let them know. Man with the master plan, and you have no need to know. You came prepared, now get ready for the show.
Sports Professor. Oh!
Yo, 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 what up, what up, what up, friends? You know who it is. Omar, the Professor Fonseca, here with another installment of The Professor's Semanalmente. Woo! Happy St. Patrick's Day. Woo! Party it up. Hope you're having some good libations, my friends, or either some of the green beer or some of the other greenery, if you may, or if you please. Just be safe out there with your partying today for St. Patrick's Day. If you're downtown Nashville, hit me up. I'll probably come out and meet you tonight. So just let me know where you're at. Hit me in the DMs, as they say. And as always, make sure you're subscribed at Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS on YouTube as well. Hit that like button. It's free. It helps us out here in the algorithm. That being said, let me go ahead and hit y'all with a little knowledge, as I always want to do on this program. You know, I like to start you out with a little story about whether there's a holiday going on or some sort of historical event. So today is St. Patrick's Day. Now, St. Patrick's Day has always, at least, and we had this thing with the daylight savings time that we talked about last week, but I always had the misconception that it was St. Patrick, the guy that drove out all the snakes and, you know, all of this other stuff that happened. But apparently, and this is shout out to Terry O'Hagan at JSTOR.org, a great academic website, good for research. I use them for research sometimes on this program. So shout out to JSTOR. But there are some details of a historical Patrick who was an ecclesiastical ministry, right? He did minister to pagans outside of what was at the time Roman Britain, is where he was captured as a youth in the 5th century AD, where he was transported back to Ireland, and he spent 6 years as a slave, eventually making his way back home, again becoming an ecclesiastic and going back to Ireland as a missionary. But that's where everything ends. Contrary to any myth or legends, there's no snakes, there's no shamrocks, druids, church sites. Actually, he never mentions churches at all in his actual writing. The only place he actually names in Ireland was the place of his captivity. He also provides no dates, no miracles, no mention of Rome, no popes, no mention of papal sanction or authority, and no mentions of any successors. So again, shout out to that great researcher, Terry O'Hagan at JSTOR. But clearly, St. Patrick, while maybe a good person who tried to get the word of faith out that he believed into other people, not exactly the mythical figure and mythical being that we all thought he was to be at first. You know what I mean? Shout out Canteen, my brother. Y'all make sure you turn into The Bottom Line Sports tomorrow night, probably 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Be on the lookout. Join The Bottom Line Sports Facebook group. We'll be talking March Madness, NFL, NBA, all the good stuff. You'll get my our March Madness predictions on there. So there's a shameless tease for tomorrow. But we'll talk about March Madness here in just a second. And then as well, we're getting to our entertainment pop culture as we always do. We'll also give you our Donald Trump weekly update as we always do, and then get into some world news, updating you on the Ukraine-Russia ceasefire talks that are continuing this week. Let me go ahead and take those off as, yes, we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, but there is no, it's a little hyped up, a little bit of that bluster we talked about last week. Maybe St. Patrick ain't the great saint that he was made up to be, but nonetheless, it is a celebrated holiday all over the world, especially people who like to enjoy a good libation or two, including myself. I did yesterday with a very beautiful woman. Was happy to spend time with her for a few hours yesterday, enjoying the St. Patrick's Day festivities. Hopefully, get to spend some time with her again soon. Your boy on his thug Bizzle. Anyways, all right, let's get on. Let's keep it moving. You know what it is. The Professor Semanalmente again. Thank you for tuning in. Ball and Bloods, BALLANDBUDS. Hit that like button for me. Let's move it into sports. Yes, sports for the week. Obviously, we have March Madness this week. It is going to be amazing. Now, you all know, very much so because I've been talking about it for the past month now, that March Madness, especially that first weekend, is either my favorite sports time of year or it's very close up there with, I'm pretty sure it is my favorite sports time of year. March Madness, especially the first weekend, you get basketball all weekend, 4 days in a row, games going all day, all night. It's just amazing. Speaking of, I'm going to talk about my UCLA Bruins here in a moment, but my Bruins, the men, are actually playing in Lexington. So I am thinking about catching either a flight or a bus over there for this weekend to go catch the game. We'll have to see how that turns out. If I take a bus, I'll have to stay like 4 days, and I don't know that I really want to do that. But the flights are super expensive, like $350 for one way. And I really don't know that I want to spend that just for one game in a game that, yeah, we could win, but we're not probably favored in. Anyways, all right, we'll keep that for a little bit later. But we are moving into our sports portion. And yes, as I mentioned, March Madness full swing. Selection Sunday was yesterday, where they announced the seeds for the men's and women's tournaments. I have the brackets here for us. You know me. I'm always going to provide you with the goods. So I do have the brackets to bring up. So first of all, I just need to say, before we get into anything else, before we get to the men's tournament, right? We know basketball aficionados, college sports fans, March Madness fans, NCAA basketball fans know that the past few years, the women's game has been much more exciting than the men's game due to star power and all sorts of other things, which is why they got a huge rights deal, media rights deal, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But, hold on one second real quick, because as I mentioned, I have to shout out my UCLA Bruins. Yes, the UCLA Lady Bruins, the number 1 seed in the tournament, the overall number 1. I see you, Lady Bruins. Shout out. Let's go, UCLA. Yes. I am so hyped. They are definitely winning the championship this year, not because I'm a homer, because they have the best team. But let's talk about some of the other teams first, because there are a lot of other teams and ladies that deserve to be mentioned, because as I told you, they are carrying the momentum from Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark last year, getting all those, like I said, the media rights deals, the ratings through the roof, and now they are leveraging, parlaying that into what is going to be another amazing tournament. I first have to talk about our rival, our hated enemy, the FUSC Trojan Condoms. Beat us twice this year. We got them back in the Big Ten tournament. Sure, we're going to have to obviously, deal with them possibly at some point. We'll get into that in just a second with the brackets, but they do deserve their flowers especially because Juju Watkins is a silent killer, as I like to call her. She's just a beast. She goes in there, walking bucket, just killing everybody. Also, with those rising ratings, 3% from 2024 and 41% from 2 years ago, massive ratings boost. Again, led by Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese last year, carried on this year with the aforementioned Juju Watkins. You also got UConn, Paige Becker still doing her thing. Plus, you got Aziz Fudd and the freshman there, Sarah Strong. They got a really good team. Do not sleep. Not that you should ever sleep on a Gino Auriemma-led team since he has so many championships, but definitely they are someone to be contended with, as are the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks. They were 38-0 last year. Now, while they are only 30-3 this year, they are still one of the betting favorites, and in some books, the betting favorite to win the national championship. UConn, aforementioned UConn, another betting favorite. FUSC, another betting favorite. And not a betting favorite on many of the books, but as you see with my cap on, a betting favorite here at Ball and Buds. I already put in my wager on the UCLA Lady Bruins. Led by Lauren Betts, the best player in the post in the country, dominant big, led by Kiki Rice, DMV's own Sidwell friend. Shout out. Don't forget about the Frosh, Kendall Dudley and Sakia Newman, right? They are both from the DMV as well, so we definitely want to salute them. And actually, now that we're getting to that point, y'all know, look, I think UCLA is going to win the national championship, so I went ahead and I created, wow, champ, this is unbelievable. I don't know if we would ever get along in real life. I assume we will because we like boxing, probably have a couple beers together or something. But it seems like on everything sports-wise, we are completely the opposites. Raiders, Broncos. Now, here I find out you are an FUSC fan, and I cannot deal with this. This has ruined my day. Right, exactly. Yeah, no doubt. I think we can definitely hang out, have a beer, have a little barbecue, and talk some shit to each other. But damn, I hate your school so damn much. But anyways, y'all got a great team, and again, something to be reckoned with possibly this year. I know, right? So let me go ahead and bring that bracket up for y'all. This is the women's bracket, as you can see here. And so again, when you're looking at this, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for y'all. Oops, that was the wrong one. This one should be, there we go. Okay. A little bit more of a full screen there for y'all. But anyways, so as you can see here, we've brought in our bracket of the women's side. So the top four number ones, you've got UCLA, you've got FUSC. Now this is where we've got a little bit of drama. A little bit of drama came in here. FUSC's coach, champ, you'll know your coach. I believe it's not I forget her name. Geez, I'm blanking on her name. Anyways, really good coach. But she was complaining earlier this morning that USC was screwed as a number one because of having UConn in their same bracket part. So in each region, y'all, this is what you got to look at and especially for y'all that are going to bet or do your March Madness picks. Each obviously there's a region for each of these schools, each of these seeds, and you want to look at each region because those are the places that you're going to pick your four teams that emerge for your Final Four. So again, when we're looking at this, you get those sorts of things that pop up. And so USC, their coach came out again and was like, hey, this doesn't seem fair that we were one of the best teams in the country, if not the second best team in the country, and we end up with UConn. Valid criticism. I agree. I think they were probably the second best team after UCLA in the country this year. And I do think they got the hardest road with having UConn there, so they did kind of get screwed. But I do think they'll get past UConn, and I do see UCLA and USC playing in the in that left side of the bracket there as you see. Cool. The second seed in UCLA's bracket, as you see, is NC State. So UCLA, as the number 1 seed, does seem to have the easiest road here in terms of region competition, which it should be. That's how it's supposed to play out. The number 1 overall seed is supposed to have the easiest road in terms of other seeded competition in that same region. Moving over to the right-hand side, you see we got South Carolina, the aforementioned Lady Gamecocks, up at number 1. Number 2 in their side is the Duke Blue Devils. You'll hear a lot more about them on the men's side when we get to them, but don't flake on their women's side. And I do want to point out one sleeper here, and it's not just because it is my alma mater, but the Lady Terrapins from the University of Maryland. You see them there, number 4 seeded. Don't sleep on them. Don't sleep on them. While I don't think they have the goods necessarily to beat South Carolina, I will tell you right now, they have an amazing team. And if they're healthy and they have everybody, including, everybody from the Coach Brenda Freeze being on her game all the way down to the last person on the bench, including the rookie Poffenberger, who've been having a great year. I mean, it's just a good team. I think they're a little young, and it does kind of make me upset a little bit in terms of that they wasted. It seemed, well, we'll see what happens in terms of this actual tournament. But it seems to me that they kind of, and again, I feel kind of bad saying this, wasted the career of Cheyenne Sellers. Cheyenne Sellers has been there for 4 years now, has been an all conference, all nation player each year there, and they just weren't able to get it done there in her time. Also got to shout out my girl, Allie Kubek. Hey, woohoo! She gives me a little, you know what? Let me stop. But she is a beautiful, beautiful young lady, and she can ball. Shout out, Allie, if you hear this right now. I am shooting my shot at you. Holla at your boy. Jump in the DMs. Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. Allie Kubek, number 14. I see you, girl. Okay. Anyways, moving on as I just shot my shot at a college basketball player. All right, let's keep it moving in the right-hand side because I can do that because I'm a player. On the bottom right-hand side, you get the Texas Lady Longhorns led by Madison Booker. Had a little bit of rough end to the season there, so we'll see what happens with them there. But in number 2, another Texas team, Texan Christian University, the Lady Horned Frogs, as y'all know, my favorite mascot in the whole United States college, aside from obviously my aforementioned schools, but I'm talking about non-affiliated professor schools. They are better than Vanderbilt, though. So anyways, you see the women's bracket there again. I told you I got UCLA coming out here. I don't even need to wait. I don't even need to tell y'all to come tomorrow on the Bottom Line Sports to find that out. We're probably not going to talk the women's side. I doubt Canteen or Hot Take Jake want to talk the women's side. Maybe they do. Canteen does love him some college, so I could be wrong. But we'll probably definitely just talk the men's side. I'll try to get them to talk women's either way. UCLA, USC on the left-hand side, South Carolina, and then I'm actually going to go with an upset on the lower right-hand side, and I'm going to pick, and you know what? I'm going to change that. I was going to pick Tennessee, but actually Louisville and Notre Dame both had great ends to Louisville had a really good end to the season, but Notre Dame did not. Notre Dame had a rough end to the season, but they got Hannah Hidalgo, who's a beast. Oh, that's tough. That's tough. You know what? I'll go ahead. I'm gonna pull a whisker out my behind here, and I'm gonna go with Notre Dame turning it around, and the 3 seed coming out of there out of Birmingham. And then in the finals, I got UCLA beating the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks. Shout out to everybody on Instagram watching. Appreciate you, my brother Bajo. I see you out there. Speaking of Bajo, we'll talk about him in just a little bit because we'll have him on show later this week, either maybe this week, hopefully this week, maybe next. Banter, Brawls, and Bravado. So shout out to him watching. But I did create a limerick because it is St. Patrick's Day, and because I am rooting on my UCLA Bruins to be the winners of this tournament, I did a little limerick. I created a limerick in commemoration of the UCLA Bruins. And it goes a little something like this. There once was a squad dressed in blue, whose talent dazzled on a cue. With Kiki Rice shining bright and Lauren Betts' fearless might, they conquered and won every duel. London Jones would light up the arc, while Gabriela Jaquez ignites the sparks. With Angela Dugalak, Hanaya Barker, and Timea Gardner's experienced fight, and the fresh women, Alania Arnasalo, Avery Kane, DMV's own Kendall Dudley, and Zanaya Saka Newman's future so bright, the UCLA Bruins won every fight, an epic championship flight, and left all their foes in the dark. Boom! Professor's limerick right there for St. Patrick's Day for my UCLA Bruins. Y'all know that was dope. Yes, I wrote it myself. It was beautiful. All right. I'm very proud of myself. Dawn Staley, a great coach, can't stand her. A lot of people have that opinion about her because she is a little bit more cocky and brash and outspoken than other coaches. I actually like it much better that way. I love Dawn Staley as a coach, as a personality. And I think that just because she's a little more outspoken, she still has the same kind of coaching personality and coaching sensibilities as a Nick Saban or, any of these other people, even, Bill Belichick, even if they may not be as outspoken. So, but a lot of people do have that opinion about her. I do not. I love you, Coach Dawn Staley. All right. So that is the women's side of the bracket. I kind of want to repeat that limerick again because it was so damn good. But the 2024 women's tournament final outpaced the men's championship game, drawing almost 19 million viewers. And so y'all remember that there was, as I mentioned, that they have a new media rights deal, the women do. This was obviously put into place last year. They got the ESPN gave them the media rights in which they are now able to distribute more money to schools. So obviously being able to leverage the popularity and being able to get more eyes on the game has obviously led to them being able to support the game more and bring the game more up in the eyes of the public, which is what the women and the people in the NCAA on the women's side of supporters have been screaming forever. And it's horrible that they never heard it in the back until now. But at least the women are finally getting their due and deserved shine. So salute to all of the amazing women out there. One other quick note, 6 programs are making their debut. Arkansas State, Fairleigh Dickinson, Grand Canyon, UC San Diego, and I bring this up because I'm a homer, 2 schools from Virginia, George Mason and William and Mary. Shout out to those 2 schools. Good luck in the tournament. So again, this first year in the 8-year, $920 million contract extension for the media rights, and we'll see what happens. But let me give you some numbers because I'm the professor. I'm here to learn, y'all. 2021, they averaged 550,000 viewers. 2022, 635,000 viewers. 2023, 985,000 viewers. And in 2024, they had a 121% year-over-year jump to 2.2 million average viewers. Now, are we going to say that happens again this year? Maybe, maybe not. Again, the star power is still there. You don't necessarily have that Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark rivalry, but you do have a lot of great teams and a lot of good star power on the women's side. So I do not know that they will necessarily surpass the viewership of last year's tournament, but it should be at least fairly high in the upper 1-point-something million range, 1.75 million, something like that, I would probably have to say. Now, there is one other thing about these media rights deals. They go till 2032. Why did the NCAA do this? Well, they did this so that way both of the deals, men's and women's, end at the same time. They can package them together and get even more money. Dollar bills, y'all. Money make the world go round. We know that. Cash rule everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bills, y'all. Shout out the Wu-Tang Clan coming up with a new album and a tour this year. If y'all are going to be lucky enough to have them come to your town, make sure you check them out. The Wu will always put on an amazing show. Too bad COVID took them out of their last show when they were supposed to come to Nashville, and now they're not coming back this time around. I'm very upset. Wu-Tang, if you put any more shows, please come to Nashville. All right, let's keep that moving. Just a little bit of sidetracking there, but I love me some Wu. The men's side of the bracket, wowzers. This, y'all, if you are betting this going forward, remember that this is going to be mostly chalk. What do I mean by that? I mean that most of the winners in this bracket are going to be mostly teams that are in the higher seeded range. For instance, a lot of people already picking the games are already picking the ones across the board to win out. The ones this year are very, very strong. So thinking about this, let's take a look at the men's side of the bracket. But first, Auburn, Duke, Houston, Florida. Those are your four number ones. The Auburn Tigers are the number one overall seed for the second time in their school's history. But you will remember this whole year, if you watch this program, you will know I am the professor. I teach you things because I want y'all to be smart out there when you're talking all of these different subjects. I want y'all to make sure that you have the best knowledge from your professor. And I told y'all all year long, the SEC was running shop in men's basketball. They were leading the top 5, the top 10 all year long. They have now set a record 14 teams out of the 70 or the 68, in the field. Wow, that is crazy. So we'll see what happens. They've got a lot of good teams. Florida is playing really good ball right now. I can't tell you who I'm going to pick because it's a shameless plug for the Bottom Line Sports tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure y'all check us out at The Bottom Line Sports on Facebook or also at Ball and Buds on YouTube. I'll give you my men's NCAA picks tomorrow, so that will not be tonight. But you got to watch out for Florida. You got to watch out for Duke. You got to watch out for, obviously, Auburn, probably the team that I'm not sure yet, but they're up there. I'm looking at Auburn, looking at Houston. Obviously, you can't count Houston out. Yes, Houston has been disappointing us year after year in the actual tournament, a la James Franklin and Penn State. They just can't seem to win the big one. But I, at some point, think that Kelvin Sampson, the coach there, will get over the hump and they will win a championship. And this year is probably their best year because they do have Cryer and Sneer and all of the great upperclassmen talent that is leading that team. So we'll see what happens there. In terms of complaining, I got a bone to pick with the West Virginia University president, I think he was like a senator from West Virginia or something like that, and he decided to come out and say they were going to press legal action on the NCAA, calling them the National Corrupt Associate, which is hilarious because you all know, if you watch this program or The Mind of the Professor, how little I think of the NCAA. The NCAA is one of the worst run and most corrupt organizations in the whole world, especially with their bullshit amateurism argument. So we're not going to get into that. You can go back and watch Mind of the Professor. I did a whole damn 30-minute segment on it, so go check that out. But I cannot agree here. I'm sorry. Yes, they picked UNC over you. Yes, UNC is a blue blood. You aren't. Yes, UNC is going to bring more eyes to the TV. All the above. All of the above. It is literally, you are trying to have the most compelling teams, the most compelling storylines, the teams that are going to bring the most eyes. Does it suck for West Virginia? Sure. Does it suck for Indiana? Sure. But sorry, what did you think was going to happen if you came down to y'all versus UNC? Obviously, UNC is a blue blood. They're definitely going to take UNC. So I get the argument. It sucks, but there's really nothing you can do about it. And although and this is the one thing that is obviously going to detract from my argument and contradict what I just said. UNC was 1-12 in quad games, which means quad games, they have quad 1 through quad 4. And those are the basically the rankings of teams. So the best teams are quad 1, the worst teams are in quad 4. And so they measure this in terms of what's your win-loss record in the different quadrants. UNC was 1-12. Whereas, WVU and Indiana were a lot better. I believe both of them had at least 4 or 6 wins in the quads. So in quad 1 specifically, quad 1 I should be talking about specifically. So pretty crazy, but you knew UNC was going to get in. I don't know why you would think anything different there. So, but again, we talked about all of that, the media rights, how much more viewers they're getting. And now the women also have an equal conference fund. This is where conferences get money distributions from the NCAA based on how many teams from their conference get into the tournament and how many times they win games in the tournament. Then that conference gets more money. So in the men's side, it's between 170 and 180 million that are divvied up between conferences. Like, for instance, the SEC this year with their record number 12 teams will wind up with $26 million to distribute to their schools. Also, they then win money gain more money, based on every win through the national championship game. Now, the women's is not as much money as the men's, obviously, since their media rights deal is not that much, but at least the women get that now, because just before last year, women schools didn't get these money distributions. They didn't get the equal conference fund. They didn't get any of this. It was just now instituted once they got their new media rights deal. And Dawn Staley, the aforementioned that Champ and I were talking about, has called it probably the best invention for women's basketball in terms of boosting the game up. Another fun fact, sports books project a record $3.1 billion. See, that pinky ring is actually on the ring. It's a nice ring. Thank you to my beautiful and lovely producer who bought me that ring. But anyways, billion projected to be bet on March Madness this year. I know I have already bet a little bit of money, and I still haven't even filled out my brackets yet or done squares or done my actual day picks every day. So I'm sure I will bet at least a few $100s this year on March Madness myself alone. So, right. Money makes the world go round, as I said. Shout out. We have got to give a shout out to Dick Vitale. Yes. Oh, shout out Felicia. I see you tuning in. Yes. A club's cousin, one of my favorite people. I love Felicia. She says, of course, the women are making less, but things are a-changing. Yes, damn right they are, and they deserve to be. The women's game is on fire, and women's sports in general are on fire and deserve to be highlighted and deserve equity and treatment, and maybe not money, because the media rights are obviously two different media rights. But once 2032 comes along and they work those deals together, the women's pay better go up a lot more than it is now. But yeah, we're very happy that the women are finally getting their just due. Moving on. Unrivaled tonight. Yes, Unrivaled. If you do not watch the women's basketball game, Unrivaled, it is a new, I talked about it on this show. I talked about it on The Bottom Line. It was a 3-on-3 league where a lot of the WNBA players could go and play and not have to worry about going overseas. And, we have talked about that here on this show, where we talked about how the women have to go travel to overseas countries to try to get more money, because obviously in Russia, they may pay like $1 million versus whatever you have here. But then you end up with the Brittany Griner situation, which is obviously nothing that we ever want. In this lifetime. Before, and I apologize. I forgot to show the men's bracket. Well, You're just going to have to tune into the Bottom Line Sports tomorrow. We'll be talking about it all show tomorrow. So tune in there, and you can see it there because I'm not going back now. Unrivaled tonight has their championship game starting. Actually, it started at 7:30 Eastern. It's on right now on TNT. The Chelsea Grays Rose will be playing Ryan Howard's Vinyl. And Unrivaled's MVP this year was Nafisia Collier. So shout out to Nafisia Collier for winning the Unrivaled MVP. But unfortunately, her team was bounced from the playoffs last night. And so they did not make the championship game. I'm actually going to get you an update here. I'm going to find out right now what the score is. You know, as I say, I like to keep y'all updated and learned as best as possible on this program. So let's go ahead and give you a live score update here. And we have, let's see, after the first quarter, let's see what we got here. Unrivaled first quarter score, Rose, Chelsea Green's Rose, 19. And then the Vinyl, 16. So a 3-point game, 19-16 after the first quarter there. So I'm actually going to get off of here after I'm done and go watch the rest of that. Shout out to those women. What else in the college basketball world, or in the basketball world, rather, the college basketball crown? And you'll say, what is this, Omar? What are you talking about? What is a college basketball crown? Well, this is the newest NCAA basketball tournament. You know, they got the NIT, the National Invitational Tournament. This is another one to try to get more of those teams that didn't make it into March Madness, giving them more action, giving their schools more exposure, more revenue, things like this. This will take place after March Madness from March 31st to Sunday, April 6th. And it will feature teams from the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Big East that did not make the March Madness tournament. And so you say, who are these teams? The professor's here to learn you. Washington State Cougars, Boise State Broncos, Oregon State Beavers, Villanova Wildcats, the FUSC Trojans, champ. Y'all up in the college basketball crown suckers. Couldn't even make March Madness like my Bruins on both sides. Arizona State Sun Devils, you know, I'm messing with you. Cincinnati Bearcats, DePaul Blue Demons, Butler Bulldogs. Shout out Butler here in Tennessee. Nebraska Cornhuskers, UCF Knights, that's Central Florida. Colorado Buffaloes, Utah Utes, and the Tulane Green Wave as well. Being a homer again, 2 more schools from the DMV. Shout out to the Georgetown Hoyas and George Washington Revolutionaries, both there in D.C., the capital of this amazing, amazing country. That being said, yes, I know I just hyped up the 2 teams from the DMV while I shouted down USC, but I still think it's funny. Ooh, Natasha Cloud's a beast. Yes. Shout out. Love me some Natasha Cloud. She be balling. That's a great pool right there. Let me know if you're watching the game as well, the Unrivaled game. Alicia tuning in. We appreciate it. Y'all make sure you hit that like button as well. Make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. Moving on, a couple more sports news before we get into our entertainment pop culture. Injuries to Tiger Woods. Uh-oh. Well, this past weekend, we found out Tiger Woods tore his Achilles tendon. This has been something that has bothered him for many, many years, since 2011, when he dealt with this in his actual active playing days. Now, we know Tiger has only been playing in the majors and other tournaments where he can be able to compete because father time caught up to him. He's about to be 50. He's had dealt with injuries his whole career. And no matter how much I love Tiger Woods or other people love Tiger Woods brought the game of golf to black and brown people, and for that he needs to be saluted. I would have probably never played golf in my life if it wasn't for Tiger Woods, and I actually love the game of golf because I did follow Tiger when I was a kid. You're not going to see him again in any substantial action. Not that we had anyways, or that you should have expected to. His real playing career was already finito, donezo, goodbye, you're gone. Here you go. Get out of here. See ya. Good night. Good night, bang. But we still love to see Tiger whenever we can. He now has the Tigers Golf League. I know that's not what it's called. I like to call it that facetiously because he's the main face of it. He won't be playing that for a little bit, it looks like, either until this recovers. It's obviously a 9-month, year-long injury. Somebody his age, maybe even a little longer, but at least he can still be the face of TGL. He is also one of the main proponents or main protagonists in the talks between the PGA and LIV Golf in Saudi Arabia, trying to get them to do a merger, which, by the way, the update there is that you will be seeing a merger at some point, probably this year, in terms of agreements to merge organizations to let LIV players back into majors and things like that. But you won't actually see them come back together as one united golf league, probably for a while. Probably be a while before that happens. Speaking of golf, Rory McIlroy this morning won in overtime for the Players Championship. He won a record $4.5 million, which, by the way, fun fact, back in 1974 when this tournament started, Jack Nicklaus won the first Players Championship and he earned $50,000. It is now $4.5 million. That's a lot of inflation, a lot of buckaroos being passed around. But shout out to Rory McIlroy. Again, he played bad down the stretch yesterday, letting the other kid get into it. I forget the kid's name. I apologize. You played a great game, but you didn't win. So winners get the recognition on this show. There's no participation trophies in life. All right. Moving on to NBA. The Magic ended the Cavaliers' 16-game winning streak yesterday. Yes, the Cavs might even get to still 70 wins. They have a 16-game winning streak, a 15-game winning streak, and a 12-game winning streak. So the Cavs are doing some amazing balling this year. Also, Peyton Pritchard, Boston's soon-to-be sixth man of the year. Shout out to my Celtics. He has now set an NBA record with his 219th three-pointer of a year. That is an NBA record for a bench player. The previous record, shout out to this name, Wayne Ellington, 218 threes off the bench for Miami in 2017-2018. Before we go to our rankings, NFL news, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both re-signed in Cincinnati. What are you saying? Hey, Omar, how did that happen? Well, I believe I called this on the bottom line. Last summer, I called this when they said, well, what would you do with the Bengals players? And I said, I would sign all three of them. I would make sure I have Burrow, Higgins, and Chase signed to a long-term deal. I got laughed at. No, they can't do that. They don't have enough money. Well, boom, they do have enough money, and they finally did it. Bengals finally spending money like a professional damn franchise instead of whatever they've been doing for the past 50 years. You got to keep them. The only way the Bengals are going to win a Super Bowl is with that offense. It's through Joe Burrow and that offense. They need to fix that offensive line. If they have a run-of-the-mill top 15, top 20 defense, Joe Burrow can win them a Super Bowl with Jamar Chase and with T. Higgins. So shout out to the Bengals for doing what they finally did and had to do. But I called this last year and told them they need to do this before they wasted all this money that they could have saved signing these players the last 2 years. Like the damn Dallas Cowboys in here. Speaking of all other NFL news, Texans cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. is now the highest paid defensive back in NFL history, signing a 3-year, $90 million contract in over the weekend. And that will be it for our sports news and updates. But I do want to go ahead before we move into our entertainment and pop culture. Let's go ahead and go through our rankings for the week for our NHL, NBA, and MLB. Yes, baseball is coming back, baby. Baseball is back. So we're going to start giving our baseball power rankings. Let's go ahead and start off first with NBA, though. This week in our NBA power rankings, at number one, the aforementioned Cleveland Cavaliers. They are number one with a 56-11 record. At number two, the Oklahoma City Thunder, 56-12 record. At number three, my Boston Celtics, 49 wins, 19 losses. At number four, the Golden State Warriors, y'all. I'm telling y'all, see, y'all come here because y'all know how smart the professor is. Y'all come here because y'all know I'm always right on everything I say. Every prediction always turns out to be right. I called this. I said when Golden State traded for Jimmy Butler, this was going to change the whole dynamic of the team, and they were going to make a deep playoff run. They won 12-1 since they 13-1 after last night since they traded for Jimmy Butler. Warriors on the rise. And at number 5, I have to finally mention them. You know how much I hate them and their main player. You know, I'm a LeBron hater. But the Lakers have been doing their thing since they traded for Luka Doncic. They are now 41 wins, 25, and in 5th place in the NBA.com power rankings. Not my personal power rankings, or they'd be all the way at the bottom because the fakers suck. Hot take, Jake. Get the hell out of here. All right. Moving on. NHL power. I love you, hot take, Jake. Moving on to the NHL power rankings. Hey, y'all. You know, we got to update you on that OV watch. Alex Ovechkin scored another goal in the past week. He is now 8 goals shy of Wayne Gretzky's record of 895 goals. So we will see what happens there, but they still got about 15 games left, so he still can go 1 goal every other 2-game average to break the record by the end of the season. And hey, his team is happy that he is still the old Alex Ovechkin. Old being a key word because he is old, but he's still great. He's still Alex the Great, Alexander the Great, because his team, the Washington Capitals, shout out the DMV, are number 1 in the NHL.com power rankings, 43 wins, 14 losses, 8 draws. At number 2, the Winnipeg Jets, 45 wins, 17 losses, 4 draws. At number 3, the Dallas Stars, 42 wins, 20 losses, and 2 draws. As well, the defending champion Florida Panthers at number 4 with 40 wins, 22 losses, and 3 draws. And rounding out the top 5, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, actually called just Vegas Golden Knights, 38 wins, 19 losses, 7 draws. I actually like that. I think I like Vegas better than Las Vegas. Maybe we should just be the Vegas Raiders instead of the Las Vegas. No, I take that back. I like Las Vegas Raiders better. I take that back. All right, moving on to our Major League Baseball power rankings next week. We will have our MLB insider for Ball and Buds, Mike Wiebe. We'll be back on the program. It has been way too long since we spoke with him last year, to be exact, as the playoffs were starting. We missed talking with him. By the way, happy birthday, my redheaded friend. I love you. It was his birthday this past weekend, so we give a shout out to my brother Wiebe. And we'll have him on next week to preview the MLB season, either on my show or the Bottom Line, or maybe even both. We'll see what happens. At number 1 in the MLB power rankings, I mean, who did we think it was going to be? The Los Angeles Dodgers. They have bought their way to the front of the pack, and deservedly so. They have Shohei. They have Yamamoto. They have Mookie Betts. They have Freddie Freeman. I mean, there's a damn gluttony of talent over there, and they're going to open up the season here this week in a 2-game series starting in Japan. Yes, they are trying to leverage that Shohei Ohtani star power. I believe that 2-game series starts tomorrow, I believe. At every other game, by the way, the rest of the MLB season starts on Thursday. So if you're looking for your team to play, all MLB teams will play Thursday. In number 2, the Atlanta Braves, as I like to call them, the Atlanta need to change the name. Hey, you don't get excluded from this. If the Commanders had to change their name, y'all got to change your name too. If no more for the fact that I'm a Mets fan and I hate y'all, and I want y'all to have to suffer the name change. That's pretty much the only reason why. Arizona Diamondbacks at number 3. You're asking yourselves, what? Why are the Diamondbacks so high? Well, if you remember the past few years, they have been in the playoff race in and out every year with a really good team. So we'll see if that holds out to be the case. I don't know if I'm that high on them this year. At number 4, another one of my most hated teams, the Philadelphia Scumbag Phillies. And at number 5, only the best team in the league and above, the hated rivals, the Fankies, the Skankies, the Spankies, my New York Metropolitans. At number 5, the Juan Soto era starts. Francisco Lindor, Edwin Diaz, the Puerto Rican powerhouse duo, Pete Alonso, the polar bear, back in the Heezy. Let's go, Metropolitans. All right. Oh, shout out. Thank you to my producer telling me I'm doing a excellent job. And so I really do appreciate that. And so let's go ahead and thank you. Y'all make sure you are subscribed to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. Make sure you subscribe. There's a handy QR code right up at the top. You can use that, scan that QR code. That'll take you to our link tree. You can subscribe to our YouTube. You can follow our Instagram. You can find the Bottom Line Sports on Facebook. You can find Clubber D on TikTok. You can find me on Twitter. Whatever floats your boat. Hit that QR code and don't make your boy gloat anymore. Although I always will, because that ego's on 1,000. Your boy springing up like nobody. Stop. All right, anyways, we keep it moving. Entertainment, pop culture. We got a few notes here for the week. Why did that not work? It did work. All right. So entertainment, pop culture news. First of all, I want to update you on a couple things. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have banter, brawls, and bravado with comedian Bajuan Malave, as well. Clubber D will be there. I'm trying to find one more person. It needs to be a special person. I was actually looking for a female voice. So if there's a female voice that would like to come on and talk with Clubber D, Bajuan Malave, and myself, either this week or next, please reach out. Let me know. Not going to be about sports only. I know that's usually a concern when I've been asking the female crowd that we need a voice. This show is not going to have all sports topics. It's going to have one or two, but they're not. You don't have to have any sports knowledge for that. This is going to be this is our pop culture, entertainment. This is our trash talking show. This is where we get on and we talk a bunch of trash about all different kinds of topics, mostly doing with celebrities. One of those we will be updating you on. Sean Diddy Combs has pleaded not guilty to new charges related to alleged forced labor of past employees. These charges will now be stacked on top of the racketeering and sex crime charges that he already faces. So I'm not going to go any more into that now because we will be talking about that on Banter, Brawls, and Bravado. So look forward to us completely wrecking Sean Diddy Combs again, because anytime we can get on and ruin Sean Diddy Combs, we will, because if the alleged, if the alleged things are said to be true, he is allegedly a horrible person. Moving on. TikTok update. Yes, here we have talked about the TikTok ban very much. You know how I feel about it. National security measures. TikTok, if ByteDance, the Chinese parent company, is not going to divest, we cannot have it in the United States. It's a national security, not only just problem, issue, it's an emergency. Last week, I told you on this show about a Chinese microchip that was implanted into billion devices worldwide that had a Trojan horse, FUSC, Trojan horse in it that could allow the Chinese to compromise data all over the world. This could happen here, and national security concerns persist because people think that even with a U.S. company purchasing it, that China could still have a back door in to get the data, and that there's no guarantee that they would actually be cut off from that. That is a concern. I do agree that is something that needs to be taken into consideration. So lawmakers will meet with Oracle this week. Oracle is the new company coming out in talks to buy TikTok. You will remember in the past, we talked about Kevin Leary from Shark Tank purchasing it. We talked about Elon Musk after he purchased X purchasing it. So now Oracle CEO Mark Elliston, who is a big Trump supporter, is actually being talked about possibly purchasing TikTok so that it does not become banned in the United States. These proposed terms also would say that the U.S. would have a 50% stake in the joint venture. So again, we will see what happens there. As always, we will keep you updated on this program, but April 5th was the original deadline for this TikTok ban to go into effect. So we will see if Oracle chooses to proceed or if one of those other companies we talked about chooses to come back before that April 5th deadline. In other acquisition news, PepsiCo has agreed to buy Poppi for $1.5 billion with a B dollars. If you're asking me, Omar, what the hell is Poppy? I've never drank it. Don't ask me. But apparently it is a prebiotic soda maker. And I guess Pepsi feels really good about it. And there is a lot of movement towards the healthier alternatives of drinks, including healthier sodas, healthier alcohol, and other sorts of things that people are starting. We're starting to, at least in society, at least some people are trying to be a little more healthier, at least trying to have a little more healthy of a society. I can't say all of us, but some of us. And that comes from a person who likes to eats a lot of sweets, but also go to the gym every day. So got to keep whatever. We'll just let that go. Prebiotic soda sales reached 820 million, comprising a little bit less than 2% of the $42.5 billion U.S. soft drink market. Other news, NBC has signed a $3 billion deal for the U.S. rights to broadcast the 2034-2036 Olympic Games. The aforementioned Tiger Woods we talked about a little bit earlier. Tiger Woods has a biopic film in the works to be produced by Barack and Michelle Obama. Pretty cool. Pretty awesome there. Spotify has paid out an all-time high of $10 billion in royalties to the music industry in 2024. That is more than $1 million to nearly 1,500 individual artists. So shout out if you were one of those 1,500 artists that made $1 million on Spotify in 2024. You're awesome. Other news, sequel to the 1984 cult comedy This Is Spinal Tap. Actually love that movie. You probably wouldn't picture me for that sort of movie fan, but I really did like it. Is set for a September 12th release. Y'all know I don't like sequels. Talked about it a lot on here. So I don't trust this one at all, and I'm probably not going to watch it unless I hear good things. This is Spinal Tap remake. In AI news, Google revealed that Gemma 3, however you want to pronounce that, is their OpenAI access AI model for developers that can interpret text, image, and short videos. As well, in AI news, OpenAI has called for protecting the training of AI models on copyrighted work as fair use. That's huge. Let me repeat what I just said. OpenAI, who makes ChatGPT, has called for the protection of training AI models. Now, if y'all don't know how this works, how these companies train their AI models is by feeding their algorithms, feeding the databases with information, researches from articles, things all over the interwebs, whatever. The AI then uses these documents, uses this data to learn and then churn out the information. And then it just improves on itself as time goes on and people ask more questions. If OpenAI was able to get protected from copyright works as fair use, that would be crazy, because that means, it could be a really good thing, could be a really bad thing. So if you remember on this program a few months ago when I talked about the movie industry getting upset because AI was starting to become more prevalent in being used to make movies, and a lot of people didn't like that the creative artistry was being taken out of it. That's something that you could see here. If AI is able to use copyrighted works that people have copyrighted as their own proprietary work, that could be stepping over a huge boundary, a huge legal hurdle that would affect a lot of people that have created this sort of information. Now, the other side of the coin when you're looking at that is that if we really want our AI and our technology to improve as much as possible, we have to sort of allow this thing where it can have as much information available as possible. Very much a double-edged sword there. We'll see what happens. The White House, as you know, with our new crypto president, Donald Trump, is putting out an AI action plan due out in July. Other news, before we move on to our USA news, scientists developed genetic technology to prevent mosquitoes from transmitting the parasite that causes malaria. This is huge, y'all. They have developed the technology that could save thousands of lives annually, especially in countries that deal with mosquitoes and malaria, such as a lot of the African nations. This is great news in being able to improve the lives of those people in those countries, as well as the human population in general, because obviously those things travel, as I mentioned last week on this show. When you don't prevent things from happening in other countries, it's going to come to your country. So when we do things like remove USAID or remove these things from helping other countries, we're hurting ourselves in the long run. Other news, DNA analysis reveals that Stone Age Europeans successfully voyaged overseas to North Africa roughly 8,000 years ago, marking the first evidence of sea voyaging across the Mediterranean. Crazy. That is wild. So 8,000 years ago, Europeans traveled overseas to North Africa. Like 8,000 years ago, 6,000 BC, 6,000 before Christ. Wow. I mean, Noah's Ark had the big boat. But 8,000 years ago, they were able to build a boat that could travel across. That kind of blows my mind. I wouldn't think they would have had those skills 8,000 years ago to be able to make a boat like that. That can't be right. I'm going to have to research this some more and get back to y'all next week. Obviously, I'm not lying to y'all. I got it from the newsletter, but 8,000 years ago, were humans intellectual enough to build a boat that could? I'm gonna have to check that. I will get back to y'all next week and let you know on that issue. Yes, top of the evening to you. Thank you, Pops, for tuning in. I love you. Thank you for the support. Yes, top of the evening, top of the morning to you. Maybe if you're in Ireland now, I guess it would be top of the morning, but they're probably all hungover over there. So hope y'all enjoyed the party last night, my Irish friends. All right. Make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. Hit that like button. It is free. It helps us out in the algorithm. I really, truly appreciate it. Now we move on into our United States news. You know, we got to give you our weekly Donald Trump update. So first of all, let's go into the Senate. Republicans just last week drafted a measure to continue funding the government through September, hours before the midnight deadline, after Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and a handful of other Democrats flipped sides and voted with the GOP, allowing the bill to move forward. The Democrats, the liberals, are not happy at all with Chuck Schumer and for his what they consider to be treasonous activity by agreeing with the GOP and passing this budget. But the thing that a lot of people don't know about this, and yes, you probably don't want to anger your people by going against them, but the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that if this was not actually passed before the deadline, that would have given President Trump unilateral powers to pass all the things he wanted to pass. So had this not gotten done, Donald Trump could have just sat there at midnight. President Donald Trump could have gone through and signed everything into law that he wanted to, and there would have been nothing that could be done about it, because with the government being shut down, the president has unilateral powers. That's why Schumer did it. Still doesn't make him happy with his base. They're saying AOC. Shout out to my Boricua brethren. Love you, AOC. I know a lot of people probably watching this podcast don't like my girl Alexandria Cortez, excuse me. But Ocasio-Cortez, excuse me for saying your name incorrectly, Senator. But I love her. She's a Boricua, Puerto Rico. Shout out to my girl. Anyways, they're saying the AOC might actually challenge Chuck Schumer for party leadership. They don't know that she's going to have enough support, but she's got a lot of support in her own district and with their own constituents. So we'll see what happens there. By avoiding this stopgap by a vote of 54 to 46, this secured again funding through September, allowing the government to continue. This short-term extension, commonly known as a continuing resolution, will allow the government to continue through September 30th at a nearly 1.7 trillion short-term extension debt level, while adding $6 billion to military spending and cutting $13 billion in domestic non-defense spending. So they are going to try to reduce non-defense spending by double what they're increasing defense spending on, and then using the rest of that to lower taxes. Again, if you think that you're the one that's going to benefit from those tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, and you're watching this program right now, I can guarantee you there are not many of you watching this program right now, if any of you watching this program, that are in a high enough tax bracket to be really affected by the future Trump tax cuts. Those are mostly the rich billionaires that are going to see the most tax cuts. You may see a couple $1,000s, which really means nothing in the long term of things to most people. Obviously, there's people that don't have anything, and that would mean a lot to. But for somebody in the middle class, that's not going to mean a lot to. Anyways, moving on. The Democrats had pushed for a 30-day stopgap funding bill to give bipartisan negotiators more time to reach a year-long agreement to fund the government, but that did not happen. Now, Congress has long done this year over year. Again, you've heard me talk about it many times on this show. I used to work for the government for 10 years. This happens every year. Every year they say they're going to shut down. And every year it goes down to the wire. And every time they end up coming with something that saves. Why? Because they want the public to fear. They want everybody to think it's going to shut down so that we allow them to go out and spend more money and up the defense spending limit and up the, our debt, because we think that it's all going to go to hell if we don't. Let me tell you another thing that is not going to happen. Okay? And this may be a very unpopular opinion to a lot of people watching this show. But when the government tells us that they are going to shut down if we don't allow them to raise the debt level, which is the exact thing they're trying to cut down. Every administration, doesn't matter which one, that's always one of their goals, while they subsequently increase it every damn time. It's because they're not going to default on the debt. Who in the heavens is going to hold the United States to account? The only people or country that even has enough control over a huge proportion of our debt would be China. And even then, no matter how much of our debt they control, which they do control a good amount of it, no matter how much, it doesn't matter. They wouldn't be able to hold us into account to default on our debt. It is all a boogeyman that the government uses year after year after year to allow us, or to make us citizens think that we have to allow them to keep spending more money, or it's all going to go to shit. When it doesn't really matter, because the United States ain't ever going to default on its debt, because who the hell is going to come over and take the money from us? No one, first of all, is ever going to come to the United States. No country ever has the military power to be able to do that in general. So just militarily power alone, the United States can demolish every other country in the world. So don't get that twisted at all. Stop tripping right now. Don't get that twisted. The United States military is more powerful than any other military in the world, and no country would ever come into this country and have any kind of success militarily. Now, obviously, there are nuclear warheads, things like that need to be taken under consideration. But if you really think that some of these countries are going to hold us to effect to our debt, how? When we can turn around and take out their whole economy with one swift action. Did you see what happened when Russia first took over Ukraine, and President Biden at the time put in all those sanctions on Russia, and Russia's economy almost went into the toilet until they were saved? That's what I'm talking about. So there's things that just need to be looked at there. Sorry, I missed some comments here, so let me get back. My bad, Flo. I was looking at my document to make sure I'm getting good information. He says God gave them the dimensions and told them exactly how to build it. It took Noah 100 years to build it. But that's what I'm saying. So this was 8,000 years ago. So you're telling me that 8,000 years ago, these Northern Europeans spent 100 years to build a boat and then were able to sail to North Africa? I just don't believe. I get what you're saying. And yes, I agree with what you're saying. But even then, even if they had the dimensions, I'm talking about the pure intellect of the human population in general at that time. Even given instructions, I just don't think that humans back then had the brain power to actually be able to follow or complete any instructions. Now, again, I could be completely wrong. I need to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure that was like Neanderthal time or something like that. So, but anyways, he says, Flo says the continuing resolution gets you through September, and it was a relatively clean bill. Again, this happens every time. These things always happen every single year. It comes down to the limit. They end up passing something. Whoever's in control, which the Republicans are now, get the majority of they want, and they give some conditions or some things to the other party just to make them feel like they actually did something. In terms of a relatively clean bill, that doesn't really mean much because you're only saying clean in terms of one party. Because if you look at the other half of the country or the other half of the aisle, they would say that's not true. So yes, looking at it from the GOP side, the conservative side, the side that you're on, of course you would say that. The other side does not see it that way. Pop says they better get a grip soon. I mean, again, we all know the government's not going to shut down. Gave Junior enlisted a 10% raise. Love that. Absolutely love that. The military, our veterans, all of them should be getting more money. If anybody should be getting paid the most in this country, it is the people that sacrificed their lives for our country, and that is our military and our veterans. Salute to Flo, salute to Canteen, salute to Cupboard D, salute to myself, salute to Skywalker Boxing, all the Papa Chunyo, all the other veterans that we work with and we stream with here. We love you and we thank you. President Trump is trying to get rid of income tax for households that make $150,000 or less. That's not going to happen, Flo. Come on now. You're smarter than that. I know you're smarter than that. I've been working with you for 2 years. I know you're smarter than that. There's no way in hell they would ever come up with enough in 4 years to be able to do that. That's not going to happen. And if you even get a check back, which I know you've mentioned before on your Facebook page, a $5,000 check, again, for super poor people, yes, that's going to help out a lot. But for somebody that's middle class, $5,000 check probably ain't going to help very much. Most people blew through their $2,000 COVID check in $2,500 COVID check in a couple weeks. So, you know what I mean? It might help people pay a couple bills, but that don't last too long. You're going to need a lot more than that for it to make a dent or make any sort of, kind of impression on people's pockets that really are hurting right now and really need it. You know what I mean? So, but we'll see. Hey, if you see something different pop up there, then yeah, let me know. I'd love to be proven wrong, and I'd love to actually say that the regular average middle class family is not ever going to have to pay taxes again. I have been around too long, and you're older than I am, Flo, so you should know this, and you're in the military, so you should definitely know this. We've been around too long to know that sort of thing has never happened, no matter what administration has tried. And it just doesn't seem even logical that there would be a way for them to even get to that point. But hey, if it's going to help me not pay taxes, I'm rooting for it. I just cannot logically see it in terms of numbers, in terms of data, in terms of how you're going to make that money back. Like, are they, and we're going to talk about this in a second, are they going to be cutting Medicaid? What are they going to be cutting, right? Because they say they're not going to cut Medicaid. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, came out and said they're not going to cut Medicaid. But right now, the biggest news right now is that the Trump administration is trying to cut. And yes, they're saying it's the fraud, waste, and abuse. And great, again, if you can get the fraud out, fantastic. But the problem is a lot of these fraud claims that Elon Musk has been making with Doge have turned out to be untrue or way overly exaggerated. And the billions of dollars he's actually found is more like millions of dollars. And that's the problem, is people are always going to bluster. People are always going to hype up. People are always going to try to exaggerate. And I made this pretty simple analogy on this program last week. Everybody here has wrote their resume, or at least had a hand in their resume. And every single person has exaggerated a little bit on their resume, whether you fluffed up a word here or there, or whether you thought you actually sold 50,000 units when you only sold 40,000 units. We've all done it. It is what it is. Elon Musk is doing the same thing. Doge is doing the same thing. But the problem is that a lot of people depend on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid flow. You're getting to that age. Ha! Shots fired. So you don't want it to run out before you get there, do you? Right? So, I mean, we got, I'm just messing with you. Going line by line and finding waste and fraud has never happened too, but it is, sure. But the problem is they're not going line by line, and you know that. The problem is they're doing huge swaths at a time. And the problem is it's affecting a lot of veterans, are the most people that are losing their jobs and being affected by this. And that's the hard part, that they're not going line by line. If they were going line by line, I'm already supportive of trying to find the fraud, waste, and abuse. But the fact is that they're not going line by line. They're just cutting and just not even thinking about what they're doing as just how much can we cut? How quickly can we cut? No matter who's actually at the detriment of these cuts, which are mainly veterans. So, no, that's not what I'm saying. Cut out the millions. I'm saying don't lie about it. I'm saying don't exaggerate. That's what I'm saying. Because when you tell people we're going to save $4 trillion, but you're really only saving $2 billion, that's a lie. When you say, you cut 8 million in USAID or whatever, and it turns out it was only 1.5 million, well, that's a lie. It's an exaggeration. It's not true, and you know it's not true. But again, they're going to do that. All politicians do it. And Elon didn't get to the point where he was by not exaggerating or not lying a little bit. I can tell you that. No one gets as rich as he does without lying or exaggerating from time to time. They're not going line by line flow. So you're telling me Elon and his people are literally going through every single charge on every single federal government program. No, they're not. You know that because it's not even possible. We don't even have enough people. They don't have enough people. We don't have enough people. You would need hundreds of thousands of people to be working on that, and they don't have that many people working on it. There's no way you could do it. It's just not logically possible. There's way too many line items. It's just not possible. Again, Flo, I have looked at the Doge website, and I have also gone on to find out from Fox News, from Newsmax, from all the organizations that a lot of those things they put on the website are lies or exaggerations, and that a lot of them have later been pulled off the website, but you didn't know about it because you saw it at that time and didn't go check it again afterwards. That's why. That's what I'm saying. And you know that, Flo. You're being very disingenuous right now. You know that. Dude, even if they were doing one agency at a time, you would still need hundreds of people to do it, and they are not employing hundreds of people. They're not. They're not. So, just is what it is. Anyways, again, I am in full support of cutting fraud, waste, and abuse. The problem is that they are not cutting with a scalpel, going line by line as they should be, or as we hope they will. They're cutting everything that they possibly can and as much as possible, and it's affecting a lot of veterans and a lot of innocent people that do not deserve to be affected. Instead of cutting jobs and people's lifelines, how about we actually cut contracts? How about we actually cut resources? How about we actually cut defense government contracts? How about we actually cut the amount of paper that we waste in the government? I talked about how the VA will send me a bottle of prescription medicine and send it in a huge ass box, like we really needed to waste $16 on that. That stuff can be cut out. You don't have to ruin people's lives. Anyways. I mean, you can say I'm being disingenuous, but I'm not. I know logically, because I'm smart, that you would need a certain amount of people to be able to go line by line through the government. And they do not have that many people. You would need literally more people than they could even afford. You would need hundreds of thousands of people working on this, and they don't have that, Flo. And if you can prove to me they do, please send me the list of the hundreds of thousand employees they have working in Doge. I would like to see it. And yes, they have. You're right. I give you that. They have. They have. But what I'm saying is that's where they need to start, are contracts with governments, contracts with companies, not people contracts, not actual employees. I mean, hey, that's true. But I know what's happening. And I know they're not going line by line. It's not possible. Just not possible. Anyways, keep it moving. All right. So as we were talking about with Medicare and Medicaid, Trump has promised that there will not be a reduction in benefits, but the House also said that they are looking to cut, obviously, 800. The House's plan calls for $880 billion in cuts over a decade, including healthcare, energy, another $230 billion from agriculture, programs for the poor, including the SNAP program. The House also says they want to cut $330 billion from education programs, like our education in this country isn't already horrible enough. We need to be paying teachers more, not less. I already said that on the program last week. Senate Republicans have been in locked, closed-door debates all week about Medicaid and about what they're going to do, because if they are going to pay for extending Trump's $4.6 trillion tax cuts from 2017 and continue the mass deportation of immigrants and boost military spending, again, as I just talked to Flo about, you got to have the money, and you don't have the money right now. So how do they do these things? Right? By increasing the debt limit, by increasing the spending, by getting the average Mark on the street to think that they're making their lives better, or they're going to get some tax cut that's really going to have an impact on their life when it's not, because they need them to agree with them so they can spend more money, so they can get their people, their constituent, their bases, themselves, their families, their friends rich. Because that's what all politicians do. On the left, on the right, in the center, purple, brown, black, white, green, red, yellow, blue, all of them. They all do the same shit. So we'll see what happens. But I don't even think Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, I wonder if it's even going to be there when I get that age. And that's a pretty scary thing to think about. Now, luckily, I won't have to worry about that sort of thing, as I get all my health care for free through the VA. But there are a lot of people that are not like me, that are not blessed to have those sort of things. So we'll see where the Republicans actually cut from in the future. President Donald Trump has also signed an executive order that seeks to dismantle 8 federal agencies, deeming the bureaucracy to be unnecessary. The March 14th order directs agencies to shut down all non-legally required functions, cut staff, and reduce statutory roles to the bare minimum required by law. So if you want to talk about what Flo was just talking about, going line by line, that literal statement from President Donald Trump tells me the exact opposite, that they are cutting everything and reducing to a minimum, and they don't care what they cut. He literally just said it. That disproves your whole argument from President Trump himself, Flo. So there you go. I didn't even need to say it. He said it himself. He has given agency heads 7 days to report compliance or be cut completely. Again, not line by line. Just get the hell out of here. President Trump has yet to issue an executive order on eliminating the Department of Education, but has already cut half the staff and $1 billion in contracts. We'll see if that's the actual number. Department offices outside of Washington are to be closed to save additional time and money. Fine. If they don't need it, that's fine. But I would still like them to relocate those workers to the DC area, where those workers could still keep their jobs and not have to lose their livelihoods. Just my personal opinion. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just care too much about other people. Maybe that's what Christ teaches you. Anyways, so we'll keep it moving. The administration is considering a 3-tiered ban targeting 43 different countries, including 11 that would be hit with an outright travel ban. So let's look at this. What are some of these countries? In this travel ban, red countries would include Iran, Libya, North Korea, Venezuela, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Yemen, and Cuba. That's the red list of countries. The orange list of countries, which is considered a little less hostile and a little safer to travel through: Belarus, Eritrea, Haiti, Laos, Myanmar, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, and Turkmenistan. The yellow list, so a little bit safer on the scale: Angola, Antigua and Barbuda, Benin, Burkina Faso, Cambodia, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Chad, the Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Dominica, Equatorial Guinea, Gambia, I was about to say Liberia, Malawi, Mali, Mauritania, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Sao Tome, and Principe, Vanuatu, and Zimbabwe. Yes, a lot of countries there. Those are the 43 countries from red to yellow that are going to have a travel ban if the administration passes it, which means that you will only be allowed to travel to some of these countries on business, which will be your yellow and orange. You definitely will not be able to travel, nor should you be traveling to any of those red countries as an American, because you are very stupid if you think you're going to travel to any of those red countries and get out without being arrested. You're very, very dumb. Don't do it. Don't put yourself in that situation. Don't do it. Moving on. We talked about, hold on. Missed some more comments. Let's see what's going on here. Flo, my bad. I'm also on my document. You got to remember that. They gave them all severance package. Okay. I do agree. They did give severance packages. I cannot agree to the validity of whether everyone got one. I know some people did, but I will take your word at it. If you said everybody did, I will take your word at it and say good. I hope that it was a good severance package, because some of the severance packages that I saw that were being offered for some government workers that had a lot of tenure were the same severance package that I got when I left the healthcare company on my own accord a few years ago. And that's not good, because I should not have been getting the same severance package they are for the amount of work they did when I only worked at that healthcare company for a year. And people working 15 years are getting the same. That's not good. And that's where the government is doing all this stuff. You need to cite all the sources you read from so we know where it's coming from. I can definitely go back and cite sources from you. What I'm telling you that we've talked about today are things that are coming directly from any of the mainstream news outlets, from Fox News to Newsmax to CNN to MSNBC to any of them, which are reporting on it. And I'll go ahead and get you a document. I'm going to do that for you, Flo, because I do want you to know all the things that are not properly being reported to you by them. So you know what? I'm going to go out after the show. I'm going to spend my hard-earned time and money to go find some stuff for you. That's what I'm going to do. Thank you for tuning in. For being a fan, I will do that for you. Thank you for the support. Make sure all y'all support. Make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS on YouTube as well. Hit that like button. It is free. It helps us out in the algorithm. Last USA news, Beijing is not a fan of the Panama Canal sales. Apparently, Hong Kong conglomerate CK Hutchinson and China let the world know through a op-ed that appeared in the state-owned newspaper Takung Pao last week that the $23 billion deal announced last week for the two Panama ports to become U.S. investor-controlled assets alongside 43 other ports in 23 countries was praised by President Trump, who has accused China of controlling the Panama Canal. China clapped back, and they said that it was the U.S. that is planning to use this deal to curb China's trade partnerships, all aspects that would come with their trade, which obviously, yeah, a lot of the trade from this whole world goes through the Panama Canal. I agree with Donald Trump on this completely. I do. No, if China has any type of control over the Panama Canal, which they do, they have a lot of contracts, and we can supersede that by using our power, which I just talked about earlier. This is one of those times when you do it. Yeah, no, give us control. You ain't going to be having control because that's too close to our country, and we don't want you having control of what could affect our trade. So yeah, get China the hell up out of there. Pay them more money and get them up out of there. Who cares what they say? Flo, come on. You can't come on the show and say things like that. It's just patently false. Both sides are going to lie and tell their base what they want them to hear. Don't say one side. Both sides do it. And the fact that you're really attributing it more on one side to the other, it just really goes to show how biased you truly are. Come on, man. Just say both sides do it. That's all you got to say. You don't got to say one side does it more than the other. You sound like Donald Trump now. It's always got to be to the most or to the extreme. Just be honest. Just tell it's okay. Not everything has to be the best. President Donald Trump we're moving on to world news, actually sent attacks against Houthi rebels in Iran. So I completely, again, agree with Donald Trump here. This is actually not the first time we've sent attacks. When President Biden was in office, he also attacked the Houthi. But basically what's been happening here is since Israel and Hamas had their Gaza Strip beef start a few years ago, the Houthi, which is a terrorist group in Yemen, has been striking the waterways of where a lot of American ships and other ships worldwide are going through. And so the Houthis have been attacking these shipping lanes, preventing other countries from being able to get their boats through, all in obviously support of their terrorist regime, in support of what they are trying to accomplish as a terrorist group. So Donald Trump sent out the Navy, and they took out a bunch of the Houthi. They killed, I believe it was 6 killed, 6 injured in the actual attack, but he said that they're not going to stop and that they're going to keep doing it, especially if Iran tries to continue building their nuclear program. Again, completely agree with President Trump here that they need to be taken out, because they've been attacking these shipping lanes for more than a year now, and it's really bringing a huge problem, because it is also delaying products, making logistics, making things like that much harder around the world in terms of getting all the things that places need to get, including aid and other things. So the Houthis have targeted over 100 merchant vessels with missiles and drones, killing 2 vessels and sinking 2 vessels and killing 4 sailors, during their campaign targeting military and civilian ships. Shout out to the Harry S. Truman, which was the naval carrier that took this attack to the Houthis. Salute to the Harry S. Truman, which I know very well because a very close friend of the Ball and Buds show actually was on the Truman. So shout out to the Truman for doing big things. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on, Russia-Ukraine update. Talks will continue this week. Talks will continue in Russia. So Donald Trump is going to meet with Vladimir Putin this week to discuss some of the ways that they will be able to, let me fix this up for you here, to be able to get us some of the ways that they can try to figure out how to end this war. Over the weekend, Russian forces retook much of that border province, Kursk, that we talked about last week. So if you remember 2 weeks ago rather, I said that Ukrainian troops had taken over or taken back that Kursk province. Well, now Russia fought back, and now they've regained this. Now, remember, this Kursk province is huge in terms of the ceasefire talks, because it is right in between Russia and Ukraine and considered a vital part to both countries in terms of what they want. Also, we must remember, when we're talking about a U.S. mineral deal with Ukraine, that an estimated 40% of Ukraine's mineral resources are inaccessible because of Russian occupation. We also know that the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 has obviously led thousands of people dead and injured, displaced millions. Obviously, Ukraine looks similar to what the Gaza Strip looks like. A lot of rubble, a lot of other things. They're saying it's going to take billions of dollars and 10 years at least. So you'll remember I was talking with my producer last week about how long it would take estimated to build the Gaza Strip. And you'll remember I said it would probably take between 10 to 20 years to rebuild it back up. Well, that seems to be about right, because they're saying Ukraine, which is not as bad off as the Gaza Strip, would take about 10 years and billions of dollars to rebuild. So, those things take a lot of toll. War and trying to rebuild back after war takes a lot of money and takes a lot of toll on those countries. So we'll see if there is actually a ceasefire in talks. I wouldn't trust Putin farther than I can throw him, and I can't throw him at all. So I don't actually think that he's going to continue to go through with this, because every other ceasefire they've ever had in the past, he's broken. So I don't see why we're supposed to expect anything different. And this is one of the things I don't agree with President Trump on, is I don't think we should be allies with Russia. Actually, I should think we should be doing the opposite and doing what I said earlier and using all of our economic power to crush Russia. We could easily eliminate their economy very, very quickly. Now, again, then you have to think about the other side of the coin. Well, what about the Russian people that are innocent? Yeah, well, you would have to give them some place to go. Maybe you let them come to the United States. But in terms of Vladimir Putin and anyone else that has pushed Russia to be an enemy of the United States, I don't see why we're being friends with them at all. Maybe you want to keep your enemy at close like you do your friends. That's fine. But we don't need to be friendly with any of our enemies. And that comes from someone who's very, very knowledgeable on these subjects. Let's just say that. Frightened by the prospect of U.S. security disengagement in 3 years of Moscow's war against Ukraine, European countries are actually debating reinstating compulsory military service to build their defenses in face of Russian aggression. So, wow, this is crazy, y'all. So basically, because the U.S. is kind of taking the middle ground here between Russia and Ukraine, a lot of the European countries are worried that they are not going to be able to particularly defend themselves from Russia if the United States was to let Russia do whatever they want, which is a possibility. If Trump really wanted to be friendly with Putin, he could let him do whatever he wanted. If that were to happen and Russia was to start going all over Europe and taking over, well, a lot of European countries, and this is in due part to our fault here in the United States, because we have long been the world power, because we long have been the ones to support countries all around the world, which, yes, we should do, because if we want to keep our standing as the world power, we need to not only be able to show that force of power to defeat countries, but also show that force of power to help countries. So we got to use the push and pull to both help, to heal and hurt, as they say. Hurt our enemies, heal our friends, heal those in need. But anyways, all across the Europe, from France to UK, they are looking at reintroducing some sort of military service. And again, I completely agree here with what we are doing. I'm sorry. Yes, we are the world power. Yes, we need to make sure that the world doesn't go to shit because other countries want to try to, like Russia or North Korea or China, want to make things bad. Yes, we need to keep our foot on their throats. Yes, we need to keep ourselves as the national power around the world, as the biggest power. That being said, we don't need to support all of Europe's defense. They need to start doing more. There's no reason that we should even be putting up more money than some of these countries into their own defense. Sorry. No. Make your own damn people go into the military training. I personally have said this forever since I went into the military, but I think that every person in the United States, every person when they hit 18, should either have to go to college or have to go to the military. I believe you should have to do one or the other. Now, obviously, in order for the United States to enact that, if someone didn't want to go into the military and didn't want to go to college, you probably have to either force them to go to the military or pay their way through community college, because obviously you can't force them to pay. But sorry, that ain't our fault. You better get your own people to defend your country. We got our own people to defend. I sacrificed 6 years of my life. My father sacrificed 3 times that. We got people on this program. Flo, Canteen, check out the Bottom Line Sports tomorrow night. Veterans. Clubber D, veteran. Poppy Chunyeo, veteran. Skywalker, veteran. We all sacrificed. We all gave what could have been a portion of our lives, and maybe even our lives had we had to support this country, to support the defense of this country, to keep it the freest and best nation in the world. But that don't mean, and again, I'm not for not helping countries. We got to help countries. We got to keep those other bad people, Russia, China, North Korea, we got to keep them at bay. So we got to keep our foot on their throats, keep our power, and we still got to help other countries. But to be completely funding and sending troops to your wars and things like that, nah. We got nuclear warheads. We'll keep them at bay that way. But in terms of anything else, all these European countries, y'all better start getting your own people. And the Spaniards, 53% of people in Spain are against forced compulsory military service. Well, sorry for you. 53% of my ass is against us supporting y'all. How about that? Don't come asking us when Russia comes into España because y'all didn't want to go do military that we supposed to defend y'all. No, 53% of y'all can kiss my ass. That's what y'all can do. That being said, you know it's getting a little late when I get a little rowdy. And so since this is the last story of the day, I'm going to make sure I take my butt off of here before someone tries to cancel me. But you can't, because I'm the man and I'm the professor. And that's why you come here, because I'm always right and you're always learning the good stuff. So make sure you subscribe at Ballin' Buds, BALLANDBUDS, where you can get all the beautiful information in this beautiful face every single day. Because not only do I go live at least 2 or 3 times a week, Bottom Line Sports tomorrow, banter, brawls, bravado, clubberdy, Bajuan Malave, coming either this week or next. Be on the lookout. But I also put videos on YouTube every day. So you're always getting some sort of content. So please make sure you support that channel. Again, BALLANDBUDS, handy QR code right up at the top that you can scan to as well. Subscribe to our YouTube, follow our Instagram, and so much more. That being said, I really appreciate all you tuning in, especially Flo. I know some of you may think that me and Flo are at each other's throats, or it's very, very far from that. Flo has been a very loyal fan of my programs and a partner on Bottom Line Sports, and he always comes in and allows me to have objections, challenges me with questions from a different side than some people may be watching this program. I know some of you watching this program may be on the left, some of you may be on the right. That's fine. You come to me because I'm in the middle. You come to me because I hate both parties. You come to me because I think all politicians are shit and I'm going to give you the real deal. You come to me because I'm neutral and I don't care about what either party wants. I want what's best for the United States and our population as a whole. That being said, make sure y'all subscribe and please, as always, make sure you tune in to the professor. No, they didn't start the war. You're right. Oh, we all know Russia started the war. I mean, come on now. And Trump saying that was one of the worst things I've ever heard said, especially when you're talking to an enemy about an ally. It was pretty bad. But yeah, there's no way anybody in their right mind can say that it was the other way around when Russia was clearly the one to invade. And if you don't understand that, please go back to all the audio podcasts for Ballin' Buds. I go deep into it in the audio versions of the podcast, and you can hear all of the background on the Russia-Ukraine war because I got deep on it. Best interest to do that. Yep, we got to support. Yeah, they can't count on us necessarily, but again, maybe we shouldn't necessarily be supporting everybody, or at least to the extent that we are now. They need to, as you say, ensure they are securing themselves more. So shout out. Thank you, Pops, for tuning in. Thank you, Flo, for tuning in. Thank you to my producer, Maria Fonseca, for tuning in. My beautiful mother, I love you. Champ Ross, thank you for tuning in, my brother. I know we are butting heads on every single damn sports-related topic, but at least it's not that. At least it's that and nothing else. We will definitely have a beer and a barbecue at some point in the future, my friend. Again, y'all have a great and blessed week. Go out there, do your best, be your best, succeed, thrive, be kind to each other, love each other, spread love the Omar way. Holla. 5,000.
He's with the millions.
It's that world heavyweight flow. Championship belt wrapped around my waist, yo. I got that Ric Flair figure flow. Slam you on the pavement, that's why they call me Street Pro. Create heat on beat flow. Like Jordan after the second time he three-peated, folks. Get ready, set, let's go. Fight toe to toe, release the flow created by this mic pro. Lights, camera, get low. Action packed, back to back. In fact, this monster will grow. Y'all better let him know. Man with the master plan, and you have no need to know. You came prepared, now get ready for the show.
Sports